Have you ever found yourself kind of caught in that all too familiar cycle? You know the one I mean. Where you're just brimming with motivation, say January 1st, full of these huge resolutions.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this year, I'm definitely running that marathon.
Exactly. Or, read a book a week, finally learn Italian, whatever it is. You start out so strong, right? That initial buzz carries you forward.
For a bit, yeah.
But then, well, life just inevitably gets in the way. And a few weeks, maybe even just a few days later, that energy starts to fade. And you sort of, almost without noticing, just drift back to the old ways. And you're left wondering, like, where did it all go wrong?
It's such a common human thing, isn't it? That feeling of being stuck.
Totally. Whether it's trying to exercise more consistently or read every night or break some habit you've had forever, we've all been there. Well, today we're going to dive deep into a book that honestly offers more than just another dose of feel-good motivation. It feels like a real practical roadmap out of that frustrating loop. We're talking about James Clear's huge bestseller, Atomic Habits, Building Better Systems for Life.
Yeah, it's a big one.
And this isn't just a book to, inspire you for 5 minutes. It's really meticulously researched.
Yeah.
It's backed by science, and it kind of fundamentally shifts how you even think about changing your behavior.
That's a really great way to put it.
Yeah.
And yeah, our source material for this deep dive, it comes from looking closely at Atomic Habits. It first hit the shelves back in 2018.
Right?
And it's, around 320 pages. So it's not this massive tome. It sits comfortably in that self-help, productivity, sort of behavioral psychology space.
Okay.
And honestly, the high ratings it gets, they're absolutely deserved. It's concise enough that you can actually get through it, but it's just packed. Really packed with actionable stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So our mission today really is to pull out the most potent nuggets of knowledge, the most surprising insights from Clear's work. We want to give you a genuine shortcut to understanding why these tiny, consistent changes are often so incredibly powerful. And maybe more importantly, how you can actually apply these ideas in your own life.
Right, the practical application.
Because, and this is, I think, the real game changer in the book, it's about shifting your focus, moving away from those huge, often overwhelming goals.
Yeah, the marathon finish line.
Exactly. And instead, putting your energy into building these robust, kind of resilient systems.
It really is a fundamental shift in perspective, a reorientation. And Clear, he doesn't waste any time getting to it. He lays out the central idea right away with a quote that just, it sticks with you.
Which one is that?
You do not rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your systems.
Ooh, okay, yeah, that phrase. You fall to the level of your systems. That always grabs me. It sounds so profound, but what does that actually mean day to day? What does it look like?
Well, what Clear's getting at here is something pretty critical. It's that our desired outcomes, those big goals we set.
The marathon, the $1 million business.
Right. They often aren't the real drivers of our progress or, our ultimate success. Instead, it's the processes underneath, the structures, the daily routines we actually do. Those are what really dictate where we end up. Think about it practically. Your goal might be, launch a successful online shop.
Yeah.
Or like you said, run that marathon. Great goals, really aspirational.
Sure.
But the system, that's everything that leads to that outcome. For the marathon, it's your actual training schedule, the days, the times you run. It's the routes you plan, your nutrition, making sure you've got the right shoes.
The boring stuff sometimes.
Well, maybe, but it's also having the proper gear, even your cool down routine afterwards. It's the whole package, the process.
Okay, so if the goal is the destination, the system is like the entire roadmap and the vehicle you use every single day to get there. Rain or shine, as they say. I wonder, though, if people get so fixated on that, that big finish line, do they kind of lose the enjoyment of the journey itself? Or maybe get totally derailed if things get tough?
Yeah.
How does Clear handle that frustration when you're not seeing immediate progress?
That's a really crucial point. Because while goals, they can give you that initial spark, that clear target.
Right, something to aim for.
Relying only on them, that can often be incredibly demotivating in the long run. If your whole focus is on that distant prize and you hit a bump, you miss a training day, sales dip, you plateau, it's just so easy to get discouraged.
And just give up.
Exactly. Give up entirely. Goals are kind of static, right? A single point in time. Systems, though, they're dynamic. They're ongoing processes. They give you this sense of continuous engagement, of being in control. Clear really emphasizes that the real satisfaction, the sustainability, it comes from mastering the process, not just hitting the end result. When you focus on the system, you're less likely to have those big motivational crashes because the daily action itself starts to feel rewarding. You get this intrinsic satisfaction from just being consistent.
Okay, this raises an interesting question then. Why do so many of us just default to setting goals? If systems are clearly, or seem to be, much more effective for long-term progress, why isn't that our go-to? It feels almost hardwired in us.
You're right, it does feel like a deeply ingrained habit, maybe even a societal one. Goals are often, well, they're exciting, they're aspirational, they give you this clear destination that's easy to picture.
Like a shiny object.
Pretty much. They represent this idealized future. But what they don't usually provide is the detailed map or, the reliable car to actually get you there.
Right.
When we put all our energy on the big goal, we often neglect the meticulous day-to-day stuff that actually creates the change.
Right, the nitty-gritty.
Think about it. You might have a brilliant business idea. The goal, success, profit. But if your system for developing the product or for customer service or marketing or just managing the cash flow, if that system isn't solid and consistent...
That goal stays a dream.
Exactly. It's just a wish. Same for an athlete dreaming of Olympic gold.
Ricky.
If they neglect the daily training, their sleep, their diet, they're not building the system that actually gets them there. They're relying on hope, not a plan. And this can lead to something called the arrival fallacy, this mistaken idea that once you finally achieve the goal, suddenly everything will be perfect, you'll be happy forever. Systems, though, they focus on the journey, which usually offers a more sustainable kind of satisfaction.
So the implications of really adopting a systems-first mindset are actually huge. For sustainability, like you said, but also for motivation. You get this deeper, ongoing satisfaction from improving the process, not just the temporary high of hitting a target. That feels way more empowering.
Precisely. And understanding this whole systems versus goals thing, it sets the stage perfectly for getting why these small changes that Clear talks about are so incredibly important. It's not about massive revolutionary leaps.
No giant transformations overnight.
No, it's about these tiny, often overlooked little adjustments within your daily system.
That brings us perfectly to what Clear actually means by atomic, which for me is one of the most brilliant parts of the book. It's such a clever use of the word, isn't it?
It really is.
He says it has this dual meaning. It means small, like a tiny habit, almost insignificant, but it also means powerful, like, atomic energy, this fundamental building block of something way, way bigger.
That dual meaning is absolutely spot on. It's central to his whole philosophy because it perfectly captures the core idea. These small, consistent changes, even just getting, say, 1% better each day.
Just 1%.
Right? Over time, they don't just add up, they compound exponentially into massive, truly transformative growth. Clear uses this great analogy, one that really sticks. Habits are the compound interest of self-improvement.
Ah, the compound interest analogy.
Yes.
That's so good because it's immediately relatable, isn't it?
Totally.
Just like with money, where tiny daily or weekly gains can somehow snowball into serious wealth over years. Your daily habits, even if they seem totally insignificant on their own, they build on each other. They accelerate. Imagine just, reading one extra page today, taking a 5-minute walk tomorrow, choosing water instead of soda the day after. Individually, they seem like nothing.
Purely register.
But pile those up over months, over years, they can completely change the direction of your life. And the math he uses is incredible. Improved by just 1% every day for a year, and you end up like 37 times better.
It's staggering.
But get 1% worse each day, and you basically decline to almost nothing. It's 1.01 to the power of 365 versus 0.99 to the power of 365. The difference is huge.
Mind-blowing when you see it like that.
You wouldn't dismiss investing a tiny amount each day if you knew it could compound like crazy, right? But we often do that with our habits because we don't see the payoff right away.
And that's what's so fascinating. This whole perspective shifts our focus away from those immediate results, which, let's face it, can be elusive and frustrating.
Definitely.
And instead, it points our attention towards the ongoing process, the consistency. And this shift is captured perfectly in another great take. Clear quote, "You should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than with your current results."
Well, that's such a crucial mindset shift, isn't it? Because we get so fixated on the immediate stuff. How much weight did I lose this week? How many sales did I make this month? We live in this world of instant feedback loops.
We really do.
But Clear's asking us to just pause, zoom out a bit, and ask, okay, which way am I actually heading? What's my path?
Huh.
It kind of takes the pressure off the short-term numbers, which are often disappointing anyway.
Exactly. Your daily habits are like the rudder on a huge ship. They're the small, consistent nudges that determine your ultimate direction and how fast you're moving long term.
Hmm.
Even if you can't see the destination yet, or the immediate effect of turning the wheel, if you're consistently making those small positive adjustments, even if the results aren't obvious right now, deep down, you're heading the right way.
Oh, right.
And that mindset, it really helps take off the immense pressure we put on ourselves for instant wins. And maybe even more importantly, it builds this incredible resilience. If you only care about results, you feel like a failure when they don't show up fast enough.
Yeah, that makes sense.
But if you focus on your trajectory, on the path, you start seeing every small action as like a vote for the kind of person you want to become. Each choice reinforces that identity. It encourages patience, reduces that anxiety about not seeing progress, and builds this quiet confidence in your efforts compounding over time.
And this focus on consistent, tiny steps naturally leads to Clear's brilliant advice. Focus on getting these tiny wins rather than trying these massive, life-changing overhauls overnight.
Oh, yeah.
Because, let's be honest, who hasn't tried to completely revamp their entire life in one go, over a weekend, only to crash and burn by Tuesday, feeling even worse than before? I know I have.
It's such a common trap.
Yeah.
Because our brains, they just resist sudden, huge changes. The source really nails this with the quote, "Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations."
It's the build-up.
It's the accumulation of those small, seemingly minor, consistent actions. Trying to do too much too fast, it almost always creates resistance. You get exhausted, and ultimately, you fail. But a tiny win, like committing to just one push-up today,
Just one.
yeah, it's infinitely more sustainable and way less scary than trying to do 50 from day one and burning out.
Yeah.
These tiny wins, they aren't just about ticking a box. They're about building momentum, reinforcing the behavior you want, and creating a feeling of competence. They lower the barrier so much you almost can't say no.
Okay.
And these small victories, they set you up perfectly for the practical framework that's really the backbone of the whole book.
Right.
The 4 laws of behavior change.
Right, the 4 laws. And this is really where Atomic Habits just goes to another level, I think. It provides this incredibly actionable blueprint. These aren't just, vague ideas or motivational fluff.
Not at all.
They're like the actual pillars for either building a good habit you want or, just as importantly, dismantling an old bad one. Clear really emphasizes that mastering these laws gives you real control over reshaping your behavior.
And what's so compelling about these laws is that they're not just based on, Clear's good ideas or some anecdotes. They are deeply rooted in solid science. We're talking neuroscience, cognitive psychology, behavioral science principles.
Okay, so there's real evidence behind them.
Absolutely. They tap directly into how our brains actually work, how habits form, how those neural pathways get strengthened, and what actually triggers us to act. That scientific foundation gives them huge credibility. It makes them much more effective than just trying to, find more willpower.
Which never seems to last anyway.
Exactly. These laws give you a deeper understanding of the mechanics of behavior. It's like getting the owner's manual for your brain.
Okay, so let's dive into them. Law number 1. This one tackles the cue stage of the habit loop, right? That initial trigger that kicks things off.
Precisely. So for building good habits, the first law is make it obvious. The core idea here is all about designing your environment, sometimes called stimulus control.
Stimulus control.
Okay. Yeah. It's about consciously setting up your surroundings so the action you want to take is super visible, easy to access, basically hard to ignore. Clear's example is simple but brilliant. Want to read more? Keep a book on your pillow.
So you literally trip over it.
Pretty much. When you see that book right there as you're getting into bed, it's an immediate, undeniable visual cue. It gently prompts the behavior. You're not relying on your memory or willpower, which can be flaky. You're using your environment to nudge you.
It's about making the good habit unavoidable.
Exactly. Like laying out your gym clothes the night before, or putting your vitamins right next to the coffee maker, or keeping the healthy snacks out on the counter where you see them first.
So you're essentially setting yourself up for success before you even have to think about it. Instead of just planning to read, you put the book right in your path.
Yeah.
You remove that mental step of having to decide or remember, leverages our visual nature.
Spot on. And it's fascinating how much control we actually have over our environment, not just the physical stuff, but our digital world too.
Oh, interesting. How so?
Well, think about digital cues, notifications popping up, even just where you put apps on your phone screen. These can either really help or really hinder your habits.
Right. Like a reminder to drink water.
Exactly. That makes the habit obvious. But conversely, if you want to cut down on mindless scrolling, maybe hiding those social media apps, burying them in folders, or just taking them off your home screen, that makes the cue for the bad habit invisible.
Oh, okay.
And this idea of removing triggers for the stuff you don't want to do, that's the flip side for breaking bad habits. Law number one in reverse, make it invisible.
Okay, so if I'm trying to stop mindlessly eating chips, I definitely shouldn't have a big bowl of them sitting on the kitchen counter, basically yelling at me every time I walk past.
Precisely. You're actively removing that trigger, that visual cue from your immediate environment. If the chips aren't easily visible, or even better, not in the house at all,
Out of sight, out of mind.
the cue for that unwanted snacking is dramatically weakened. It makes it way less likely to happen. This uses what scientists call friction. By making the bad habit harder to even start, you're not just battling willpower in the moment. You're designing your world to make the unwanted thing more effortful, less automatic. You're putting up barriers.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Let's move on to the second law then. This one tackles the craving stage, right? That motivation, the feeling you want to do it because you expect a reward.
Exactly. So for building good habits, law number two is make it attractive. The basic idea here is to link the habit you want with something positive, something pleasurable, something appealing.
How do you do that?
Well, the source example is almost deceptively simple. Read a book you enjoy. Sounds obvious, right? But how many people try to force themselves to do things they actually hate and then wonder why they can't stick with it?
Guilty as charged sometimes.
The more appealing, the more desirable you make the idea of doing something, the more likely you are to actually follow through. One way is habit stacking, where you pair a new habit with something you already like doing. Like, after I pour my morning coffee, something you enjoy, I will meditate for 2 minutes, new habit.
Ah, so the pleasure of the coffee kind of bleeds over onto the meditation.
Exactly. The anticipation of the enjoyable thing helps pull the new habit along. Or another way is to really focus intensely on the benefits, the positive outcomes the habit brings, not just the effort involved. So for exercise, don't just think about the sweat. Vividly picture how energized and clear-headed you'll feel afterwards.
You're tapping into that dopamine hit, the reward system.
Precisely. It's about the anticipation of pleasure, which is often a stronger driver than the pleasure itself. Dopamine is about seeking.
So it's like you're cleverly manipulating that craving, making the thought of the good habit feel really good even before you do it, like a mental appetizer.
That's a great way to put it. You're rewiring your brain's prediction system. Now, for breaking bad habits, you flip it, make it unattractive.
Okay.
This means consciously reframing the unwanted behavior. You highlight its immediate downsides or diminish how appealing it seems. So if you're trying to cut sugary drinks, actively remind yourself of the sugar crash that's coming later.
Or the long-term health stuff.
Right. Or how it makes you feel sluggish right now. You're intentionally making the craving weaker and the action less desirable by linking it to discomfort, regret, or pain, instead of just the immediate, fleeting pleasure, making the negative consequences really obvious and immediate in your mind.
This brings up something interesting, though. How much do, like, cultural things or just what everyone else is doing influence whether a habit seems attractive or unattractive? Because sometimes things are tempting just because they're popular, even if they're not great for us.
That's a really sharp point. It's a huge force. Our cravings are massively shaped by our social environment, by the groups we hang out with. If all your close friends go out for big, indulgent meals every night.
That becomes the norm. It feels attractive.
Exactly. It feels like what we do. Our brains are wired to want to fit in. But conversely, if you, say, join a running club or a book group, suddenly running or reading becomes way more attractive because it's shared, it's celebrated, it's normalized within that group.
So you can leverage that.
Absolutely. Understanding this lets you strategically choose environments and social circles that actually support the habits you want. It's about using that innate desire to belong to make your desired identity, like I'm a healthy eater or I'm a runner, feel attractive through social proof and association. Find your tribe that pulls you forward.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
Our surroundings, physical and social, are like silent partners in our habits. Okay, let's hit law number 3. This focuses on the response stage, the actual doing of the habit.
Right. So for building good habits, the law is make it easy. This is all about radically reducing the friction, the effort required to perform the good habit. Make it almost zero.
Almost zero effort.
That's the ideal, especially at the start. The example Claire uses is perfect. Read one page, not commit to a whole chapter. So many people fail because they set the bar way too high right out of the gate.
Yeah, I'm going to read for an hour every night.
Exactly. Claire hammers home the importance of starting incredibly, almost ridiculously small, just to overcome that initial inertia, that resistance to effort. The main goal isn't some huge result on day one. The goal is just to show up, to establish the pattern, to make the action feel totally effortless.
Even if it's just 2 minutes of meditation or one push-up.
Especially then. The act of doing it, no matter how small, reinforces the habit loop. It lowers what psychologists call cognitive load and decision fatigue. Fewer hurdles to jump over means your brain is way more likely to just do it. Minimize the energy needed to start.
This feels so counterintuitive to that whole go big or go home thing we often hear, but it makes so much practical sense. If it's easy, almost no effort to begin, you're just way more likely to do it again tomorrow. Minimize the friction.
Precisely. It's about taking the path of least resistance, but for good things. And then naturally, you flip this for breaking bad habits, make it difficult.
Add friction back in.
Exactly. Intentionally add obstacles, extra steps, barriers to the unwanted behavior. Make it a pain to do. If you watch too much TV, maybe unplug it after use. Store the remote in another room, maybe in a drawer.
Or have someone hide it.
Yeah. If you overeat junk food, put it on the highest shelf, in the back, in an opaque container, or even better, just don't bring it into the house. The more steps you deliberately put between you and the bad habit, the less likely you are to actually go through with it. You're making the effort required, just not worth the reward.
That's super practical.
Mm-hmm.
And thinking about our lives today, how does technology fit into this? Making things easier or harder? So much is just a click away.
Yeah, technology is definitely a double-edged sword here. On one hand, it can make good habits incredibly smooth. Think automatic bill pay removes the friction of remembering. Fitness trackers, logging steps, automatically effortless tracking. But on the other hand, tech makes bad habits dangerously easy. Endless scrolling on social media designed to hook you, one-click buying for impulse purchases, binge-watching platforms that just roll into the next episode without you lifting a finger.
So addictive.
The key, Claire argues, is being really intentional. We can use digital tools to increase friction for bad habits, like setting app timers that lock you out, or using software that blocks distracting websites while you work.
Okay.
And we can use tech to decrease friction for good habits, like using smart home stuff to automatically dim lights at bedtime, signaling it's time to wind down. It's about consciously designing both our physical and digital worlds, making them active allies, not passive enemies.
That intentional design idea is huge.
Yeah.
Okay, finally, law number 4. This deals with the reward stage that pay off. The positive feeling that closes the loop and makes you want to do it again.
Right. So for building good habits, the law is make it satisfying. This really highlights how important immediate gratification is, even if the real big reward for the habit is way off in the future.
Because our brains love instant rewards.
Totally. We're wired for it. Our ancient brains needed immediate payoffs for survival. The example Claire gives is simple, but so effective. Track progress on a calendar. Seeing that chain of X's building up after you work out or read or whatever.
Oh yeah, the satisfaction of not breaking the chain.
Exactly. It provides an immediate, tangible, visual sense of accomplishment. It's a little dopamine hit right then and there. It reinforces the behavior instantly and makes you want to keep that streak going. Other ways, small, immediate self-rewards like listening to a favorite song after finishing a task, or accountability telling a friend you did it gives that immediate positive feedback.
So even if the big payoff like fluency in Spanish is years away, just ticking off studied for 15 minutes on your tracker gives you a little win now. It's like you're tricking your brain into enjoying the journey, not just waiting for the destination.
That's exactly it. You're creating an immediate positive link between the action and a feeling of pleasure or success. That's critical for sticking with it long term. It speaks directly to our brain's wiring for immediate feedback. Now, for breaking bad habits, you flip it again. Make it unsatisfying.
Okay, how did that work?
You systematically introduce immediate negative consequences or some kind of accountability for the unwanted behavior. The goal is to make the bad action feel unpleasant, costly, or painful right away, which kills its appeal.
So if I want to cut back on, say, doom scrolling on my phone, I could maybe use an app that literally charges me money for every minute I go over my limit, or I have to text an accountability partner if I slip up, knowing they'll call me out.
Absolutely. That financial ouch or social uh-oh makes it immediately unsatisfying.
That would definitely work on me.
You're introducing immediate pain or cost. See, the reason lots of bad habits stick around is because the real negative consequences are often way down the road. Health problems from smoking, debt from overspending, relationship damage from being distracted.
Right, the connection isn't immediate.
Exactly. Your brain, loving immediate gratification, doesn't easily link the current pleasure of the bad habit with that distant pain. So by making the unwanted action immediately unsatisfying through penalties, public accountability, self-imposed discomfort, even just a sharp mental reminder of the immediate downside, you short-circuit that pleasure loop. Your brain starts to associate the bad habit with feeling bad now, making it way less tempting next time, make the consequences immediate and real.
Wow, okay. This whole 4 laws framework feels incredibly comprehensive. It
Right.
covers every single step, how a habit starts, how you do it, how it gets reinforced. It really feels like a master key to behavior change. But then Clear takes it even deeper, doesn't he? He talks about identity-based habits.
He does, and this is where I think the book moves beyond just habit tricks and into something much more profound. Changing who you fundamentally are. The core idea is this powerful distinction. Instead of saying, I want to quit smoking,
Which is outcome-based.
right, you reframe it completely and declare, I am not a smoker.
Wow, okay. That feels fundamentally different. It's not just about the action of quitting. It's about changing your identity, how you see yourself, like a total internal shift.
Exactly. When you consciously build habits based on the person you genuinely want to become, the behavior itself changes meaning. It's not just something you have to force yourself to do anymore. It becomes an affirmation of your evolving self-image.
An expression of who you are.
Precisely. It becomes intrinsically motivated, deeply sustainable, because it lines up with your core values and aspirations. If you define yourself as a reader, then picking up a book isn't a chore. It's just what readers do. It's natural. If you see yourself as an active person, going for a walk isn't a struggle. It's just part of your identity. The behavior feels effortless because it's congruent with how you see yourself.
This brings up a really important point, though, about our inner world. How do our existing beliefs about ourselves, those stories we tell ourselves, maybe for years, how do they either help or hinder this kind of identity shift? Because many of us have these deeply rooted narratives, right? I'm just not a morning person, or I'm terrible with money.
Oh, absolutely. Those self-narratives are incredibly powerful, often running the show subconsciously. If you've always believed, I'm just not disciplined, that belief acts like an anchor, holding you back, making it really hard to stick to new routines. It shapes what you think is even possible for you.
So how do you change the narrative?
Well, Cleo argues that the small, consistent actions, the tiny wins we talked about, they actively build evidence for the new identity. Every single time you manage to wake up just 5 minutes earlier, you cast a vote for I am a morning person.
Ah, vote. I like that.
Correct. Each vote strengthens that new identity bit by bit. Over time, those votes accumulate, they reach a tipping point, and your internal story genuinely starts to shift. You begin to actually believe it. This ties directly into self-efficacy, your belief in your own ability to succeed. As you consistently do these small things aligned with the new identity, your confidence grows, creating this positive feedback loop. You're literally building proof for your new self.
So the small actions don't just build the habit, they literally build the person you're becoming.
Yeah.
That reframes everything about personal growth. And speaking of loops, let's just quickly revisit the basic habit loop. It's kind of underpinned this whole discussion. Pull it all together.
Yes, absolutely. The full loop. Cue, craving, response, reward. Clear really emphasizes its cyclical nature. It's a continuous feedback mechanism constantly reinforcing itself. And understanding that cycle, really getting it, it empowers you. Not just to figure out your current habits, good and bad, but crucially to intentionally design new ones. If you can pinpoint the cue, understand the craving, make the response easy or hard, and tweak the reward, you gain incredible leverage over your own behavior. You shift from being driven by your habits to being the architect of them.
That really does sound like a superpower. Being able to reverse engineer any habit you want to start or stop. But then there's this really common, often frustrating experience that trips so many people up. Something Clear calls the plateau of latent potential.
Ah, yes. This is such a crucial concept, and it explains exactly why so many people with the best intentions give up on new habits way too soon. The core idea is simple. Visible results from new habits are often seriously delayed.
So you're putting in the work, but seeing nothing.
Exactly. You might be doing all the right things for weeks, maybe months. You're consistent, you're putting in the effort, but you see very little, maybe zero, obvious progress. It feels like nothing's happening. And this long period of apparent stagnation, where your effort seems to vanish into thin air, that's what Clear calls the valley of disappointment.
Oh, the valley of disappointment. Yeah, I think we've all spent some time there. You're doing everything right, showing up, working hard, but the scale isn't budging, or the language isn't clicking, or the business isn't taking off like you thought it would. It really feels like you're wasting your time. It can be so disheartening.
It absolutely can be. And this is why persistence, just keeping going through that discouraging phase, is so incredibly critical. It loops right back to that quote. Success is the product of daily habits, not once-in-a-lifetime transformations.
Right. The compounding is happening even if you can't see it.
Exactly. It's working away quietly under the surface, accumulating. Think of like an ice cube in a room that's slowly warming up. You won't see any change, any melting for a long time, right? The temperature has to climb from, say, 25 degrees Fahrenheit up past 31. But then, suddenly, at 32 degrees, it starts to melt. Your consistent efforts are like that warming process. They're building up, creating the conditions for a breakthrough. But the dramatic, visible results often lag way behind the effort, and most people quit right before the melting point.
So why do we tend to give up right when we hit that plateau, that valley? And maybe more importantly, what can we actually do to push through it when our brain is just screaming, this isn't working, just stop?
Well, it's often because we humans, we kind of expect progress to be linear. We expect a direct, visible link between effort and results right now.
Yeah, put in X, get out Y.
Exactly. And when that doesn't happen, when the input doesn't immediately produce the output we want, our motivation just tanks. We jump to the conclusion that the system, the habit, just isn't working.
So what helps?
Strategies to push through. First, just knowing about the plateau before you start is huge. What we're doing right now, it arms you against that feeling of failure. Second, consciously shift your focus away from the outcome and onto the process. Celebrate just showing up. Track your actions, not just the results.
So track workouts completed, not just pounds lost.
Precisely. Track the input. And third, keep revisiting your why. That identity-based motivation. If you're running because you are a runner, not just trying to hit a time goal, you're way more likely to stick it out through the valley. The identity pulls you through.
That makes sense.
Oh, and another thing, set micro milestones. Break down the big goal. If it's writing a book, celebrate finishing a chapter, then a section. Turn the big plateau into smaller, more manageable steps with their own little rewards.
This whole discussion really drives home why Atomic Habits feels like more than just another self-help book. It feels genuinely foundational for anyone who's serious about making real, lasting change. It really is a must-read, isn't it? For so many reasons that go beyond just handy tips.
I absolutely agree. First, as we've kept saying, it's incredibly practical, just packed with techniques you can use immediately. Each chapter doesn't just talk theory. It ends with clear summaries, real-world examples, things you can literally do tomorrow.
Right, it's not just inspirational talk.
Exactly. That practical focus is what sets it apart from so many books that leave you feeling pumped up but with no actual plan. Clear tells you what to do, but crucially, he gives you the step-by-step how.
And it's not just based on his personal story, although that's in there and it's compelling.
Right.
The core ideas, as you said, are built on solid science, neuroscience, psychology, behavioral science.
Absolutely. That scientific underpinning gives it immense credibility. And it helps you understand why these strategies work. You're not just following instructions, you're learning the principles of human behavior, how our brains are wired. That deeper understanding makes the strategies stick better, makes them more adaptable, and honestly, it's just more empowering because you get the why.
Knowing why makes a difference.
Yeah, like understanding dopamine's role makes it clear why making a habit satisfying is so vital. It demystifies the whole process.
And the amazing thing is its universal applicability. This isn't just for, elite athletes or startup founders. These principles work across the board, right? Health, work, relationships, even mental well-being.
Totally. Whether you're trying to eat better, be more present with your kids, learn a new job skill, or manage stress, the fundamental ways habits form and change are remarkably similar. Clear gives you this robust, flexible framework you can apply pretty much anywhere. It breaks down the huge problem of change into manageable pieces, gives you real agency.
And the stories really bring it to life, don't they? The examples he uses are so relatable. You've got athletes, artists, entrepreneurs, even his own story of recovering from a really serious injury. They make the concepts less abstract, more concrete, show the real-world impact.
Those stories aren't just fluff. They make the theory click on a personal level and show how versatile it is. And they all reinforce that core message about long-term thinking. It's about building sustainable systems for consistent growth over time, not chasing quick fixes. Which brings us right back full circle to that systems over goals idea we started with. It's all connected.
So if you're listening right now, maybe feeling that little nudge to make a change, who specifically really stands to benefit most from diving into Atomic Habits?
Well, the source material points to a few key groups. Students, for example, looking for better focus, more consistency in studying, maybe building effective learning routines. Clear strategies are perfect for creating those systems.
Okay.
Entrepreneurs, too, trying to build sustainable work habits, better productivity systems for their business, avoid burnout. This book is like an operations manual for personal efficiency.
And I think crucially, anyone who feels like they're just stuck in that cycle, starting strong, fizzling out, whether it's fitness, learning a skill, whatever, this book offers a really clear path out of that frustration, a new way to think about progress, regardless of past attempts.
Absolutely. And obviously, anyone trying to build healthier lifestyles or break specific bad habits, smoking, too much screen time, unhealthy eating, they'll find the 4 laws are just a powerful, science-backed toolkit. It helps you move from feeling overwhelmed or like a failure to actually making small, steady progress on the things that matter. It's about giving you back control through a practical framework.
So as we wrap up our deep dive here, the big takeaway from Atomic Habits, it really isn't just about building habits. It's more fundamental. It's about intentionally designing a better version of yourself, one tiny, consistent step at a time. The final verdict from the source really says it all. If you read only one book on behavior change in your life, make it this one.
That's a powerful endorsement, isn't it? And I think it's spot on. It shifts your internal question from what goal should I chase to who do I want to become and what systems will get me there consistently. It feels like a framework for life, not just a quick fix.
So as you go about your day after listening to this, here's a little thought to chew on. Can you identify just one small, truly atomic habit you could start today? Just one tiny thing. Think about applying maybe just one of the 4 laws we talked about. Could you make one good habit just 1% more obvious? Or maybe 1% easier to start?
Or on the flip side, could you make one bad habit 1% more invisible? Or 1% harder to do?
Just consider, really think about how that single tiny shift, if you stick with it consistently, could compound, how it could build into significant, positive, real change over the next few weeks, months, even years.
It's not about waiting for some huge leap. It's about those small, deliberate steps you take along the path you choose, building momentum from almost nothing. So maybe the question is, what's your first atomic step going to be today?